everyone, and welcome back to another episode of True Crime Fact or Fiction, where I present to you all a story, and you have to figure out, is this fact ripped straight from the headlines, or is this fiction ripped from someone's imagination? Well, let's see how well you do on today's story, shall we? Last week, I presented to you a story regarding an older woman asleep in her home and is awakened in the dead of night by persistent knocking at her door, only to find on the other side a little girl covered in blood and dirt. Who is she? Where did she come from? What's going on? And why won't she speak other than to say, "Do you have ice cream?" Well, surprisingly, none of you were able to actually figure out that fictional story was from the best-selling book by Karen Slaughter called The Good Daughter. When I read that book, I was in quite a state. It was a very hard read for me because there was absolutely no trigger warning and there absolutely needs to be. So I will say, if you decide that you want to read this story, then beware that it will graphically detail some pretty horrific events from many different points of views, actually. Not just the point of view of the little girl who went through all this trauma, but from different characters' point of view. And I will link this book and the YouTube video corresponding to this podcast, which will be video number 2. So, with that being said, no one won the Cash App giveaway. I offered it to whoever would be the first one to figure out where this story came from. And unfortunately, I get to keep the money and go shopping. So, what are you going to do? Let's see how well you guys do with today's story. Dr. Hamilton was the best psychiatrist of her day. She didn't need you or anyone else to tell her. Her record spoke for itself. This is why she was now considered an expert witness in criminal trials and held lectures all around the world. Burning the ground, she broke from the crowd, and now she was the best. She knew psychiatry, and she was never biased. She stood behind time-tested and patient-approved research. The science wasn't on her side. She was on its. Science didn't fail her. Respect it, and it won't fail you. These are simple things, and she seemed to be the only one who understood it, and that's why she's the best. But of course, in every field, there's always a skeptic. This season's skeptic went by the name of State's Attorney Greg Aldo. Yeah, he smells like he sounds. He tasked her with a job that no other psychiatrist was able to do. But every time she looked in his face, she repeated to herself over and over, we wouldn't be in this mess if he had come to me first. He tasked her with getting the truth from a very traumatized little boy. He was lost, then he was found, and now so traumatized that he refused to speak to anyone, including her. Now Aldo, standing with his arms crossed, looking like he was ready to reprimand an errant child, was waiting for her as soon as she stepped off the 4th floor elevator. "Don't start," she said firmly to him. "What do you mean? Has the child spoken to you yet?" he demanded to know. "Of course not, Aldo." "Well, why not?" he yelled. "These things take time. He doesn't trust me thanks to you." "Me?" "Yes, you," Hamilton snapped back. "I am the 3rd counselor he has had since this whole case began. Not to mention his mother is ordered to go nowhere near him, and the idiotic Child Protective Agency refused him visitation with his father, the only stable adult he's ever had. He doesn't trust adults. And why would he? The poor kid." Hamilton really didn't mean to rant on, but She was so sick of Aldo and her colleagues trying to rush the process. Science never fails, and she needed more time. Strut on the line, Mrs. Hamilton. If you are unable to get through to this kid, then just say that, Aldo says calmly. We need results. The trial needs to begin. We need to make this arrest stick. I am perfectly capable of getting through to this child. It's disco and rhymes. But as I've said, and will calmly say again, these things take time. You have 4 weeks, Mrs. Hamilton. That's all I can give you. Or what? We'll cross that bridge when we get there. As Dr. Hamilton lay in her bed that night, she stared up at the ceiling and recalled the gruesome details of the crime that brought her her little client. We've only got 4 weeks, little guy, she said to her ceiling. Please, trust me. Speak to me. Tell me what happened to you. 3 weeks later, as Hamilton unlocked her office door and stepped inside, her assistant was a few steps behind her. Here's your coffee, Mrs. Hamilton. And I took the liberty of recording the song to this one cassette all by itself. This way, we'll just make sure that no other tracks try to play if you're not quick enough to pause it. I really think this is a week of a breakthrough with little Tommy. Hamilton really did hope so. He only had 1 more week with her, and God only knows what the next psychologist would try to get Tommy to open up. As Tommy entered, she made sure to smile big and warm. She asked the exact same introductory questions and always had the exact amount of paper and fresh, unused crayons sitting in the exact same spot for him to use each week. She needed to get him to trust her. One way was for him to realize that nothing about their visit would ever change from week to week. She wanted to present herself and this space as a constant, a safe space. He never needed to fear here. The fire was always going when Tommy entered. The song was always playing on repeat before he ever stepped into the office. He began speaking to her about a week ago, and each session thereafter. What a breakthrough, but not what they were looking for exactly. Still more to go. And he only told about his dreams, and always in such an emotionless, monotonous way. But today, he was a little different. To her pleasure, Tommy smiled at her when he sat down. The little client is showing emotion. She couldn't believe it. Finally! Okay, but she had to keep her cool. He picked up the crayon and began to run his fingernail across the wax, making it curl up and fall onto the paper. He's never done that before. She was so overcome with emotion that she had to take several deep breaths to keep her composure. She couldn't outwardly react to any of this. No matter what Tommy did, she had to keep her consistent, calm, safe demeanor. She couldn't change. Not right now. She cleared her throat and she swallowed hard, and she asked him what he dreamed about in the same tone of voice she always used. Tommy told her that he dreamed of a monster as it stalked in the forest too close behind. He said that he was so scared that he wet his bed. He put his head down when he said that as if he was embarrassed, but shortly after, he smiled and he said, that he was just glad he didn't get a spanking like his mommy used to give when he did that. Hamilton tried her best to keep calm. Tommy had just recalled getting a spanking from his mother as a child. He's never talked about his mother. He's never talked about anything other than his dreams. He is making such great progress over the last few weeks. And Hamilton can admit that she had began to just doubt the science just a little bit, but thank goodness. Tell me more about your dream, Tommy. Tommy told her that he ran as fast as he could. He told her that he hid in the water and only had from his nose on up poking out. He got so animated as he described this. Such emotion. He said that he heard the monster call out from the forest, "I'll be upon you by the midnight side." And it howled, and Tommy woke up. As he told his dreams, his eyes were wide, and his hands never stopped drawing on the white paper. Hamilton was so focused on Tommy's emotions and Tommy's story that she forgot to keep her composure. She asked him excitedly, hurriedly, "Then what happened to you? What did you do? What happened when you woke up?" Tommy suddenly stopped drawing and looked directly into her eyes. He was breathing hard. His brows were furrowed. He looked a little scared. "I don't like this song, Dr. Hamilton." Do 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 do. The cassette played on so cheerily. She rose so fast to turn it off that she tipped over her chair. When she got back to the table, she righted the chair as Tommy was handing her his drawing. He never let her see his artwork before. He always crumpled it up and threw it in the fireplace at the end of each session. She examined the paper. He had drawn a red car. There were 3 little stick-figured heads visible from the back seat. A woman stood by the trunk with a big black gun in her hand. Dr. Hamilton gasped. She grabbed Tommy and she hugged him so tightly. She didn't ever want to let him go. She was crying. He was crying. What a poor baby. As she held him, she screamed, "Beth, get Aldo on the phone now!" As Hamilton could finally let him know what they've known all along, but could never prove. At the bottom of Tommy's drawing, he had written, "My mommy shot us." And there you have it. What do you think of our story this week? Were you able to figure it out? Is it fact or is it fiction? I'm going to give you a few seconds to leave a comment on this podcast, or if you're on YouTube, just leave a comment below. Is this true crime story fact or straight up fiction? I'm going to pause and let you decide. Are you done? Okay. This story is fact. Yes, guys, this story was 100% fact, except for the few details that I changed to throw you guys off. One of the major details that I changed would be that of Tommy. Tommy was actually not a Tommy. He actually is a she, and it is Diane Downs' oldest daughter, who was shot by her mother when she attempted to kill all 3 of her children for her own psychotic reasons. Dr. Hamilton, as she's named in my story, actually used music therapy with Diane Downs' daughter to help her come out of a state of repressed memory due to fear and trauma. And I am not going to say the name of the song. I am pretty sure that you guys know the name of the song that was used to help bring this little girl out of her state of traumatic repression. And I want you to comment. Leave a comment on the YouTube channel if you know the name of the song, and then I want you to go back into this story, and I have dropped breadcrumbs all throughout this podcast episode, and if you can figure out what those breadcrumbs are, leave a comment on YouTube and you will have a chance to win $25 directly to you via Cash App from me. This was a very interesting story to write, and it is very sad that a mother would do that to her own children, but in the day and age we live in, psychopaths can still have children, and I hate that this is a part of American history. You know, I hate that this is a part of, I hate that this happened. I can't imagine a mother doing this. It makes it all the more difficult to process because it's true. I mean, it's not some story, you know, it's not fiction. I don't know how to say it, but it breaks my heart. There are some of those true crime stories where you can listen to them and you can pull out little details and, you know, over and over again. But this is one in particular that once I heard this story once, I was not interested in hearing it again. I was not interested in looking into Diane Downs anymore, and word has it that she is still lying about the events of this attempted murder and the murder of her youngest daughter. It's absolutely ridiculous. So anyway, I'm going to stop right there. My heart is breaking into little pieces. I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to say thank you for tuning in to this episode of True Crime Factor Fiction. Don't forget to follow us and to find us on Twitter and YouTube. Same name, same logo. We're easy to find, and enter the Cash App giveaway that I am having. I can spend this money, but I'd rather give it away. Come on, guys. So have a great evening. It is 10:27 p.m. as I am recording this, and good night to you all.